It's the Green Spring Conference. I bet some of you didn't know that, but we do. They're in Liverpool. The Deputy Leader, Adrian Ramsay, joins us now. Mr. Ramsay, welcome to the Daily Politics. Thanks for joining us from our BBC offices up there. Now, you must be very enthusiastic about the government's economic policy. I mean, you don't believe in economic growth, and that's precisely what the government's achieved. No economic growth. So you're at one with Mr. Osborne.
Far from it. The government's policies are increasing the gap between rich and poor, and what the Green Party is saying is that we can and must be protecting the services that vulnerable people rely on. There's £80 billion a year that we could be getting in if we clamp down on corporate tax avoidance and evasion, make people pay the taxes that are due, and that's about the same amount of money that was taken out of public services in the deficit reduction last year. So the Green Party is alone in politics in saying there's a different approach from the one the government's taking of slashing and burning our public services.
But you've also, in your policy statement, you say that you want to allow zero or negative growth to be feasible. Your leader, I think, I'm not sure you call her the leader, but Caroline Lucas has said economic growth is becoming uneconomic. You don't believe in growing our economy, do you?
We're making a very serious point about how we measure success in the economy, and that if you measure it purely based on GDP, you're treating all economic activity as the same, when actually some sorts of economic activity like building a school are good, other sorts of economic activity like clearing up after a car crash are bad. What we're saying, and lots of economists are saying, is we need a far greater range of measures to see whether our economy is successful, a far more sophisticated approach that looks at the level of inequality in society, the impact on our natural environment, on health and well-being. And what's interesting is that even David Cameron said that he thinks well-being should be a measure of economic success. My question would be, well, what's the government actually doing to take on board advice from the New Economics Foundation and others and actually make that happen in practice? Because their policies on cutting public services and building over the green belt and destroying our green spaces are taking us in the wrong direction.
Your policy statement also says that there must be, quote, an optimum population for the UK. What's an optimum population?
What we need to do is to make sure that all of our policies are about living in harmony with the planet, and we need to have a debate about population levels in lots of respects.
So what should it be? What is an optimum population?
Well, I don't have those figures to hand myself.
But your party policy says that you need one, and it must be introduced for the UK. So what is it?
Well, it's one of the factors that's about living within the sustainable means of the planet, but we also need to look at consumption levels. I can't tell you that off the top of my head. What I can say is that we need to make it easier throughout the whole world. It's not just about population within the UK, but throughout the whole world. To have the population at a sustainable level, we need to be making sure that we're promoting birth control and women's rights in developing countries. We need to be making sure that we're reducing the gap between rich and poor globally, getting the food to where it needs to be, so rather than developing countries being in a position where they're exporting foods that they can't afford to buy themselves, they're actually taking seriously the fact that we need to feed the world, and we need a very different economic policy if we're going to do that.
OK, Mr. Ramsay, enjoy yourself in Liverpool.